Hey everyone, yet another high-scoring fantasy week last Sunday at Martinsville. And so long as your lineup consisted a lot of Joe Gibbs-related drivers, then you're pretty golden there. This week I'm going to fly through this video, as I actually have some rather important announcements to make at the very end of the video, in regards to my uploads for fantasy. So you're going to see throughout my entire lineups, Brad Keselowski has been a blemish for all my lineups, with him getting caught up in the crash involving Chris Buescher and Kyle Busch, leaving the slack to be picked up from the likes of Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. Which for a track like Martinsville, Byron's still putting in those good results. Bonus picks also carried the slack from Keselowski, having Chase Elliott and the Toyota picks right. If only Ryan Blaney didn't botch the last pit stop of the day, and he maintained his top position, that earned him the maximum 20 stage points. And of course, if Denny Hamlin can hold on to the lead from Truex Jr., that would have gotten me a few more points as well. Waste Elliott had the fortune of Martin Truex in the lineup, that also went ahead and won the race. In the bonus picks, we got all three manufacturer picks correct, in Elliott, Logano, and Truex. Pick Stenhouse didn't have any of the better Toyota drivers that did well. Instead of Hamlin and Truex, it's just Kyle Busch that was hanging on for dear life for a top 10 finish. And as for bonus picks, just Elliott and Truex right. Another thing to mention too, you're going to see the garage picks. Not one of my best garage picks in the very slightest. Some of them were made last minute. And besides Jackuwarz 1, I garaged Joey Logano simply because he was outside the top 20 and was starting to look a lot like his results in Homestead earlier this year, and a little bit of the spring 2019 Martinsville race. But to my surmise, he didn't replicate those kind of results, and rallied back to a 6th place finish, which will end up being far better than what Keselowski or Kyle Busch would score. As for no Chevy, it would be my only entry that kept Logano in the lineup, only because Matt DiBenedetto had a much worser day than Logano leading into the final stage. As you can see, I'm getting a bit over conservative with my lineups. Starving this lineup of say Hamlin and Truex really didn't give this lineup too many points. But still, Chris Buescher has given a somewhat respectable result. He's not DNFing, but still some stage points would be nice. And single-handedly the best result from Martinsville is Jackuwarz World Network. About time. This coming from the fact that it has Truex in the lineup over say Kyle Busch from Jackuwarz 1. But what really shines is the bonus picks. We got Truex across the board here, which would give us 40 additional points, and as a result would give us a result well above 240 points. Still, if we were to replace Keselowski plays with say Hamlin, instead we would be looking at a 280 points day. But for that week it was very hard to pass up Penske. Much so Brad Keselowski, with his past success there. And maybe if I was a little closer on making a better garage pick, maybe having a little bit more faith in Logano, and raising my suspicion on Kyle Busch or Brad Keselowski falling off through the final stage, then surely I would have had a much different garage pick for any of my lineups. At the very least, maybe keep Logano in more of my lineups, and less Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. As for your top 5 drivers with the most points for Martinsville, you have Martin Truex Jr., the race winner, with 56 points total, 16 of those being stage points. 3rd place finisher Denny Hamlin with 52, 18 of those stage points. 2nd place finisher Chase Elliott with 49, 14 stage points. Ryan Blaney swept the first 2 stages, and would fight his way back to 11th after the late race penalty, to bring home a total of 46 points. Then of course William Byron rounding out the top 5 with the most points, still silently collecting heavy loads of points. In his 4th place finish with 9 added stage points would give him 42. Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell both scoring 32 and 31 points. And for those 2 drivers that are only making their 3rd start at Martinsville each, that's quite impressive. And if you actually went against my words on starting drivers with less experience at Martinsville, then those are the kind of results you would have actually gotten. And now looking ahead to Richmond. It'll be a Sunday afternoon race, as opposed to all the Saturday night races. Martinsville kind of took that honor. We only ran 1 race here last year, as the spring race got cancelled, and we only had the playoff race in September. And starting on pole is Martin Truex Jr. His stats at Richmond are very much like Martinsville. He's won at least 2 of the last 4 races, and if he's not winning in those last 4 Richmond races, he is finishing inside the top 3. At any number of uses, I would very much recommend playing Truex here, just like last week at Martinsville. His numbers are far too good to pass up here. Starting alongside Truex in 2nd is his teammate, Denny Hamlin. Now, he might not have the amount of wins that Truex had, during the stage racing era here at Richmond, his last win coming in the regular season finale race in the 2016 season. But it's hard to go against the best driver arguably in 2021, and if he is to get his first stage era Richmond race win, then there's no better time like the present for him to do so. I like the idea of Joe Gibbs Racing going back to back, only this time with Hamlin. Hamlin is a must play, and like Truex, it's going to be very hard to leave him out of your lineup. I'd take the starting position and his recent trends going up in Richmond. That and the fact that as of late, Richmond has kind of been Joe Gibbs Racing's playground. Chase Elliott is starting in third, and really hasn't been a perennial favorite at Richmond compared to the Joe Gibbs drivers. But he's arguably the best driver, not driving in Joe Gibbs or Team Penske equipment. He has a top 5 finish here in the playoff race last September, and since stage racing began, he's never finished worse than 15th here. Although for this week, this might be a place where you want to go for the Elliott save, or you could possibly squeeze in a play at Talladega. Elliott's getting a lot more stable in the super speedway races, or if you're really that dry on uses, then I suppose wait until Kansas or Darlington to make your next Elliott play. Joey Logano starts 5th, and although he hasn't won at Richmond since April 2017, he's been posting up very big numbers here at Richmond. We're talking a 3rd place finish with double-digit stage points last September, and then the April race in 2019, where we got a runner-up finish with 19 stage points to boot. To put it short, Logano is a very good driver at Richmond. He has certainly got this place figured out, and if he is to get his second win, just like Martin Truex of 2021, then this is a very good place for him to do so. And I hold him in the same regards as Hamlin and Truex for this week. He should be one of your must-plays, because he's destined this week to give you tons of points. Kyle Larson is starting in 6th, and amongst the Hendrick camp could give you the best results. Not counting his crash in the April 2019 race, then he would have maintained a 5-race streak of top 10 finishes. In his own words, he did steal the race here in 2017, in the last race of the regular season that year. As much as I would really like to make the play with Larson, I'm looking more at Kansas and Darlington as plays I would make with the 5 car, but seeing it if you're at 7 or more uses left, you can consider the play. Starting in 7th is Ryan Blaney, and I'll have him as a hard avoid for this week. Richmond has been very notorious for Blaney, and in 9 starts here at Richmond, he has failed to finish inside the top 15 and score a single stage point here, which is very uncharacteristic of Blaney. Surely you would have made your bets a lot better last week at Martinsville, and still there are plenty of other better tracks for Blaney coming up, like say Talladega and Kansas. Make your plays there. I'm not sure if the warmer stretch of the season for him is going to help carry him through this week at Richmond, and by a country mile, this is one of Blaney's worst racetracks. Statistically, Darlington's a close second to it. So in short, don't play around with Blaney at Richmond. Go with his Penske teammates instead. Christopher Bell this week is starting 8th and can serve as a good blind spot play for you in his only start here last September, and slowly crawled his way to a top 15 finish. He did it with no stage points. But seeing the kind of season he's had so far, I wouldn't be too surprised if he took a result like Martinsville last week and took it to Richmond, maybe even giving you one much better with more stage points to boot. In 9th is Kevin Harvick, and amongst the last 3 Richmond races, he has the 3rd best average finish, with only one of them being outside the top 10. Now all those results have really come from Harvick starting in the front row, but with them starting a little bit further back, barely in the top 10, he could give you some okay results. If you've been holding back on Harvick plays, maybe at 7 or 8 left, could try your hands here at Richmond. I'm thinking of Talladega as my next Harvick play, as he's showing a lot of Ryan Newman levels of consistency there. Or you could very much consider Harvick for Darlington. He won 2 of the 3 Darlington races there last year. As for Richmond, Harvick can give you respectable results. Not great results, but in the past he's served me well in being that number 5 driver that gives me more than 30 points. For this season, that's been my Achilles heel, finding that number 5 driver that gives me that much. As the last driver starting inside the top 10, it's Kyle Busch, and he's the one with the best average finish at Richmond in the last 6 races, with none of those finishes coming outside the top 10, and he swept both the 2018 races. And that being brought up, Busch rounds out the big 3 Toyotas that put up big numbers at Richmond. I'm looking at him, Truex, and Hamlin as being my cornerstones of my lineup. Of course, Joey Logano in the mix as well. At a place like Richmond, you can throw just about any level of adversity to Kyle Busch at Richmond, like say a speeding penalty, or a pre-race inspection that sends him to the back, he'll always find a way to fight his way through the field and squeeze out a top 10 finish. And with him showing that kind of tenacity last week at Martinsville, that's maybe a sign that he'll run very good at Richmond. So in terms of use situation, I'd start him at any use, outside of maybe Darlington in a few weeks. Richmond is the only track I have circled on my calendar to play Kyle Busch. Starting 11th is Austin Dillon, and he was the big surpriser last September's race with a 4th place finish and 18 stage points to boot, giving him a 51-point day. And not counting any super speedway tracks, along with Homestead, Darlington, Texas, and Atlanta, Richmond has been one of Austin Dillon's better tracks. He also finished in the top 10 in the April 2019 and the 2018 September race, and even with a respectable starting position, Austin Dillon should give you a good result. He's going to be my big blind spot play for the week, him or Christopher Bell. It's really a coin flip between those two. If you're looking at saving some uses to the likes of Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, and you need someone to replace him with, then 3 car is one I would make. As outside Darlington, it's going to be tough to find a better track other than Richmond to play Austin Dillon at. Moving to 13th is Austin Dillon's teammate Tyler Reddick. In the very similar story to Christopher Bell, he only has one start here, where he started the race outside the top 20, and he marched his way into the top 15 with no stage points, although in Reddick's case he finished 11th. And on to a similar degree as Austin Dillon, I like the opportunity presented for Reddick to score a considerable amount of points this week. It's more of a long shot with Reddick compared to his teammate and Christopher Bell, and I very much expect the ownership percentage to be very low with Reddick, and if he pays off with you and you manage to have him in your lineup, that could definitely spike a big advantage. And finally, the last driver worth mentioning is Brad Keselowski, starting 20th. He's back here with his DNF at Martinsville, and on to a very similar degree to Joey Logano and the Joe Gibbs drivers. Keselowski has put up a lot of great numbers here at Richmond. He's the winner from last September's race, and you'll have to go all the way back to April 2015, where he's posted a finish worse than 11th, and all the way back to April 2013, where he finished outside the top 20. So like Martinsville, Richmond is supposed to be a very consistent track for Keselowski, and the only way he doesn't get a good result at Richmond is if he has similar luck to last week at Martinsville. He could be bringing back that same car he won with in last September's race, and to get that top 5 finish at Phoenix last month. If he takes that car to this week and gives it a good setup, then by every stretch of the imagination, Keselowski should give you a top 5 result with a healthy double-digit amount of stage points. And for the lineups at Richmond, load up on them Joe Gibbs drivers. That's exactly what we'll do with Jackuwarz 1. We'll still accompany them with Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski from Team Penske. And then my lone sleeper pick / blind spot pick in Austin Dillon. Besides from 2 of my rosters, which will be reserved for the other manufacturers. I got Toyota as the big favorite for this week, with Denny Hamlin leading the charge. Chase Elliott will be covered in the top Chevrolet, with Logano for Ford. For Waste Elliott, yet again on the same duties of having Chase Elliott as the race-winning pick. The lineup will be hitting a lot harder than Jackuwarz 1, with the likes of Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, and Joey Logano to round out this 2021 driver super team. And instead of Hamlin, we'll have Truex for the top Toyota, as maybe yet again Hamlin will have just a top 5 day, in the unfortunate scenario that Hamlin doesn't win this week. Which Pick Stenhouse will actually play with that idea, with absolutely no trace of Denny Hamlin anywhere. Instead, we'll have this lineup loaded with the other 3 Joe Gibbs drivers, with Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, and Christopher Bell. I'm banking on Kevin Harvick yet again being that solidifying driver. That's going to get me around 30 to 35 points, and no less than that. Perhaps Talladega. Outside of that, this might be the last best chance for Joey Logano to win in the next 3 weeks, so let's go for that idea. Pick Stenhouse is very low on Larson plays, we're counting only 6, so we'll have him in the bonus picks in the top Chevrolet, with the same exact story for Keselowski and Hamlin, but with both of those being at 7 uses for Pick Stenhouse. Now personally, I'm not 100% sold on having both Christopher Bell and Austin Dillon in the same lineup, but I'll make an exception to Pick Stenhouse, as both of the drivers that were coming off very good top 15 results from Martinsville, as there's no doubt in my mind that the big 3 and me from 2018, they shouldn't get garaged at Richmond, and instead I'll pick between either Christopher Bell or Austin Dillon for here, We're not going to be saving place this week for no Chevy, as all 4 Joe Gibbs drivers will be accounted for. That's including Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. Joey Logano is also here. And okay, maybe no Brad Keselowski. We'll instead put in Ryan Newman. Newman's been quietly good at Richmond, and serviceable enough for a good play. That could give us okay points. We'll have Denny Hamlin yet again throughout the bonus picks, with maybe Austin Dillon as the top Chevrolet. If not a Hendrick driver to do it, then it's easily Austin. Jackuwarz World Network will start all 4 Joe Gibbs drivers and Joey Logano with Austin Dillon in the garage, meaning you'll have a similar situation with picks in house, although it has Denny Hamlin over Kevin Harvick, which just like with Jackuwarz 1 and no Chevy, it'll have the 11 car across the bonus picks. Then of course Chase Elliott and Joey Logano for their top respective manufacturers. And so there you have it, those are my lineups for this week. And I did say early on in this video I did have an announcement to make in regards to fantasy videos for this channel. I hate to say this, but after the Talladega race on the 25th of April, I will have to go on leave and put the series on hold for a few weeks. As for how many, we're probably looking at the Kansas, Darlington, and the Dover race. And hopefully I'll come back just in time for the Circuit of the America race. My reason for all this, if you're looking on my Twitter, you're noticing that I'm posting a lot of progress work on my Mario Kart Live home circuit track building. And on May the 13th, some of my friends from the Gaming Master guys, they're going to be in town in Las Vegas. And I want to be absolutely sure that I have all the time that I need to complete all my tracks. And then on the Gaming Master Guys' channel, we're going to have some Mario Kart Live home circuit gameplay, which is going to be very exciting. But of course, I can't ensure that I have all that I need for home circuit if all my time is allotted to fantasy. So that's my reason. And outside the Dover race, I should still be able to play fantasy. And for the weeks of the Kansas, Dover, and Darlington races, I'll minimize my fantasy insight to what I had last year, where I was just tweeting all my lineups. And then later down the season, I will go back to these missed weeks and actually upload those weeks as if I didn't miss them. Those videos will probably come at the 2-week break point for the Olympics and what other off week that we get later down the road. So I hope everyone understands where we're at with fantasy and what has to be taking place for my sakes. So this Sunday's race at Richmond starts at 3:30 Eastern, which is noon at Pacific Standard Times. Enjoy the race, everyone. I'll catch you next time.